Hey, the podcast is about to start. I'm talking now at the end afterwards. And my guest today, Michael McDermott, performs a song at the very end of this thing. And if I bore you and you stop midway, just go to the end and listen to that song, no matter what. Okay, we can start the podcast now.
And now, The Moment with Brian Koppelman.
There is nothing but the moment. Don't you waste it on regret.
Hey, this is The Moment. I'm Brian Koppelman. Thanks for listening. Once again, thanks for all the comments and ratings on iTunes. I really appreciate it, and please keep doing it. I mean, if you've already written one, don't write another one, but if you haven't, get in there if you dig the show, and let me know about it, and find me on Twitter, at Brian Koppelman. So today's guest is singer-songwriter Michael McDermott. You might recognize that name as the same name as the Matt Damon character in Rounders. That character was named after Michael, although the character is quite different. The character himself isn't. But there was a period of time where my writing and directing partner, Levine McDermott, and I were like a traveling band of lunatics, in a way, in our very, very, very early 20s. And there's just a lot to talk about with Michael. It's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to have a podcast, was to be able to engage in these kind of conversations. Michael's had a very up and down career, which we're going to talk about. He's reached some incredible heights and some real lows. And when he gets here, I'm going to ask him to take us through all of it. And uniquely, thus far on this show, I intersected with McDermott, I think on maybe like the biggest moment. And I've always wondered if perhaps it would have been better for him if that never happened. So I'm going to talk about that too. He'll be here soon. And I don't know, maybe it won't be weird. Maybe it'll be like really standard. But we'll see soon. Thanks. All right, so Michael just walked in here. Hey, man, can you see me okay?
Brian. Yes, I can.
All right, you just bumped into the mic.
Sorry.
So I realized I was talking before you came in here, and what I neglected to say is that I signed you to your first record deal.
You did.
And I also neglected to say that for years and years, your music and you were like one of the central things in my whole life, in my early 20s. And it's because of the fact that I felt and still feel you're one of the greatest songwriters walking the earth. And I take that whole songwriting thing
very seriously. Yes.
Yeah, really seriously. So I just wanted to read something at the beginning of this, which is something that I didn't say about you, but that Stephen King, who knows something about writing, said, and I just found this quote. And I guess he wrote this as part of liner notes. He's written about you a lot.
Yes.
Were you in a couple of his books? Or
I was in two of his books. Well, one he used the lyrics, and then one he used like a character wore a shirt that said "I'm in love with a girl called Rain," which is a song of mine. So he used that reference
from the song "The Idler," the prophet, and a girl called Rain. And so what Stephen King said about you, I know you know this, but I just want to say it is. He said, "McDermott's music helped me find a part of myself that wasn't lost, as I had feared, but only misplaced. That's why we love the ones who are really good at it, I think, because they give us back ourselves, all dusted and shined up, and they do it with a smile. Michael McDermott is one of the best songwriters in the world and possibly the greatest undiscovered rock and roll talent of the last 20 years. You must have been happy when you saw it.
I was. And do you remember the day I think that came in? It was like I think it came to the office, and then it was a fax to me, and I read it. Like it was surreal.
But had you met King at that point?
Yes, I had.
He had written an initial sort of a fan thing about you, or had put you in a book, and that's how we realized he was a fan of
Right, he put me in the
yours.
book, and then I was at my sister's house playing basketball, and my sister opens the window, and they call me Dermot, and she said, "Dermot, you got a phone call?" And I was like, "I'm in the middle of a game here." And then she's like, "Well, it's Stephen King." And I said, Stephen King? And so it was, and I think I said, there's kind of a wash of memories and what's real and what's fictional. But I think I said when I went on the phone, he's like, "Hey, Mike, Steve King." And which, always kind of wakes me up was when people call me Mike. But so he said, "I'm coming to Chicago. I'm a big fan, and I'm coming to Chicago. Would you like to go to a Cubs game?" And I said, "Sure. You're a big fan?" He's like, "Your publisher didn't tell you? I used some lyrics of yours in a book of mine." And I had no idea.
Well, the book wasn't out yet.
No, it wasn't out. But then I think I said to him, I said, "Are you sure you're not looking for Michael McDonald?" Because that's always a great...
The Doobie Brothers lead singer.
Right. It just seemed, it was so incongruous in my head that Stephen King would be calling me while I had shorts on and a headband playing basketball. It was just very surreal. And then he came down to Memphis to see us, at Hardy's place. Joe Hardy, who was producing the record at the time. And we had a great time. We could talk about that later. But... and then he wrote the liner notes, after he'd heard some of the record.
Yeah, and then years later, being out of contact, he wrote that thing in Entertainment Weekly also about how one of your songs was like the best record of the year also.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Dance With Me, which isn't the ABBA
song.
It's your own.
Yes,
it's your own song.
Or Billy Ocean, I think, had a Dance
With Me. Oh, was it Billy Ocean? ABBA was Dancing Queen.
Yeah, right.
Billy Ocean had Dance With Me. And,
I'm sure there's a million Dance With Me's. Yeah.
And I'm glad you corrected that because someone would have tweeted at me. ABBA didn't. The ABBA expert would have been like, "Excuse me, but ABBA didn't have Dance With Me." Let's start. You're in a great place now, it seems.
Much better. Yes. Yeah.
I saw you play last night, and you with your wife as your sort of cohort on stage.
Yes, my sidekick.
But I was trying to think, how old were you the night that I first saw you play?
Man, so it would have been, I was 20, 19, 20?
Because it was 89, right?
Oh, so I would have been 21. 20.
20. I think you were 20 years,
going on
20 years old. And that was, a long time
the night
ago.
That changed my life, really. I mean, it changed the rhythm and the direction of everything in my life.
Well, sure. The show is called The Moment, and I was thinking there are certainly many moments in your life.
Yeah.
But that represented a really significant moment for both of us, I think. And so where were you in your life at that time? Can you just talk about sort of like where you found yourself when you were playing those shows in Chicago where you're from?
I was playing kind of, I was a sidekick, playing with Fitz, a friend of mine, Paul Fitzpatrick, playing Irish songs just to make money for rent. And I was writing these songs in this little crappy apartment at 620 West Surf.
What do you mean you were a sidekick?
Well, I wasn't even the lead singer. I would just play acoustic guitar and shout and stomp my foot and he was just kind of doing it just so I could get some bread and pay rent. So he was just being nice. And then there was an article in the paper by a guy named Dave Hoekstra, and the guy's managing me, Jack Koppelman, and he sent it to you. And then...
But wait, there was an article even though you were just a sidekick?
Yeah, well, I was doing my own shows. Then I think from going from sidekick, I began doing my own shows, as a solo artist.
Yeah.
And then, so somebody, a writer from the Sun-Times saw the show and wrote an article, a feature in the Friday paper or something, and then somebody faxed it to you.
And then I came to Chicago to see you. And, well, I guess even going back further, you grew up pretty far away from like the center of rock and roll. Like, what's the name of the town you grew up in?
Orland Park. So it's 30 miles and about 30 years back in time. So it's
and you were the youngest child to much older parents, right?
Yes.
How old were your parents?
My mom was 42 when she had me. I was born on her birthday, on her 42nd birthday, and my oldest brother was already going to college by the time I was born. So we never really resided in the same domicile, So
right, you didn't live in the same house.
Right,
another way to say that.
Right.
Right. Yes. Right, which made a kind of a strange. You were a little. It seems to me that you had a little bit of like a solo, lonely-ish.
What do you mean at that time?
Childhood. I wonder.
Yeah. I think my dad, and I think he was kind of done with being a dad. Like he was. It had the kids. It had come out later that I was a mistake.
Sure.
Which I like to call it destiny. But So yeah, I think he was kind of done with it. And so I don't remember a lot of my childhood. With any kind of clarity. But. Yeah.
And when did you start playing rock and roll?
8th grade, 13, saw the Stones, and that kind of, the light bulb went on.
And then this whole sideman thing, because I think it's such an endemic story about the way you've battled the whole time to keep doing this, and you're doing it 25 years later from when you first got your first record deal. But the first band you were in, wasn't there something where they kicked you out of the band without telling you?
Yes. Oh yeah. So. And I was probably 14 or 15, ready for my first show. I didn't have a guitar strap, so I went home and I got string to tie it, like literally a thin little piece of twine, and tied it. And I sat on the porch and I waited for the guys to come get me, and then
to play your first gig.
To play my first gig, and then they never came. And then the phone rang. And then, "Dermott, you got a phone call." I went in, and it was the bass player, always the bass player, who then said, "Yeah, it's not really working out." They were already at the show.
They were at the gig, and they left you home on the porch, which is just the saddest.
It is.
And at that time, you would kind of wanted to be the lead singer and cause trouble.
I don't, maybe. But yeah, I was getting better at a quicker rate than everybody else.
What did you do that, right, you were getting better quicker, you could sing and play and write songs and threaten them. So like I would have marched to the, what did you do?
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it was a devastating blow. But when you're a kid, I think you brush those things off easier. Like, I don't know if ignorance is bliss, but I just kind of thought, I'll start my own band. Like I don't really remember. It was probably so painful. I don't really remember that much. I didn't cry or anything. But
did you decide then you were going to put together your band?
That was great fuel, though. Like, I'll show them. I had this very kind of like payback-ish, and I kind of do, and I hate that about myself, is that I'm very kind of, I'm going to show you. And I think if any, well, not always, and we could get into that, but I work great under like tragedy. I think I do bounce back. Like just a slow malaise of just unpleasant things doesn't really inspire me, but really bad things do, and I get very fired up about them.
Yeah, if you were about to get squashed, that's when it's good.
Right. Yeah,
when the hand of fate comes down,
right, then I'm ready.
You're ready to go.
I'm ready to fight. Yeah.
Well, no, it's true. Even in basketball, like you're good at shooting a basketball under pressure. Like you can make a shot under pressure.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people can't.
So are you.
Yeah, but it's not about me.
Yeah.
But you can.
Yeah. My brother said if you used what your attitude is on the ball court in the other avenues of your life, you would be, incredibly successul.
Well, that's both nice and not nice, I think, of him to say. Because how do you define success would be the next question. So did you then start writing songs? I mean, was it clear to you from that point, hey, I want to do this thing for my life? Like, how did that...
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea that you're from Orland Park and that you're ever going to make any kind of real power impact on the world is kind of just so outlandish, like...
Well, what's Orland Park like?
Well, it's just a small... it's a small town. No one ever really leaves, and that's, Well, my brother got out, but, my other siblings didn't, and, they're still there to this day. But I didn't really have much of a plan. I just knew I was really, and that's when I was my most pure form of being a writer. I guess I was just writing because it was so wondrous. It was a world that I was able to escape to. I didn't really have any, I didn't figure point A to point B. I was just kind of like, I'll do this thing. I mean, it was, how I got out was just a fluke, really. It was just luck.
Well, I'm not sure that I agree that it was just luck.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the fact that you actually wrote the songs and did it contributed a lot to it. What were you listening to then?
Well, a lot of Dylan, a lot of Pete Townsend, All the Best Always Have Chinese Eyes was a very powerful record for me as a writer because it wasn't as structured as I was used to. Springsteen, U2, all the kind of the staples of the...
Right. I wonder if you two then, right at the beginning?
Yeah, early, like Unforgettable Fire, that kind of War, even, yeah.
Right. So you're doing that. You then moved to... You didn't go to college,
No,
right?
I went to one day. I got the syllabus, and I went home, and I broke the news that I could not continue this line of education any longer.
What happened?
Well, the syllabus was so daunting, I was like, oh...
Why do you think? You're one of the brightest people I know.
Well,
why do you think... And why do you think... that idea held so little appeal? Were there learning issues? Do you think there were learning disabilities?
I don't know if there were learning disabilities. The one thing that made my stomach flip was the public speaking, that you'd have to give speeches, and I literally thought, no.
You dropped out of college because you wouldn't do public speaking?
I know, it's crazy, but it's true.
And then you get up in front of audiences every day of your life now.
But yeah, with a guitar, so it's different, so it's easier.
Right. I was just thinking it'd be great if somehow alongside this podcast there could be just like a whole, like people could click on just like a song of yours,
Right.
and then go and listen, because I like there were songs that you started writing then, versions of which ended up coming out years later, or certainly just after this,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I will say, and I'll say this to you, I mean, I do agree with Stephen King. I don't like the word like an undiscovered talent, because you've played all over the world and your stuff's been in movies and it's been on television and you've played big shows and sold them out. But I do think that on every one of your records there are a couple of songs that are really important, and at least a couple of songs. And so if people don't know your music at all and they want to stop this podcast and go, this would be maybe listen to the song "Fool's Avenue" off your first record, which I think was probably something you wrote when you were pretty young.
Right, sure,
It'd be useful to do. So, you decide, okay, I'm going to move to Chicago to become a musician.
Yeah, and
are you drinking yet at this point?
No.
Because drinking comes in later.
yes, that comes in later. No, not really, hardly ever. I think I got drunk in high school once, and that was.
And where were you in the journey of the whole religious thing?
I was pretty steeped in it.
Catholicism.
Yeah, Catholicism. You know, like right out of high school, I started going to church every morning with my mom. And
What brought that about?
well, she would go, so I thought, I was searching, seeking something, that I felt there was something beyond the physical world, and so I was very, and I mean it was legend, we kind of made it up, but that I was going to be a priest, but I really considered it.
When you say we kind of made it up, I mean it's just something you said to me and didn't tell me it wasn't true until you were 30. So I believed. I'm not complicit in making that up.
Okay.
I mean, like when we first met, I think you were wearing this giant wooden cross, bigger than the one you're wearing now, or
No,
same
it's the same one.
but you were littler.
Yeah.
And you said, "Oh yeah, I thought about going into the priesthood for a long time."
Right.
Now,
Yeah. I mean,
until you looked at girls, right?
Yeah. I would have been a bad whiskey priest who would have been, like.
How have you never written a song called Whiskey Priest? Or tell me that wouldn't have been like an outtake from
That's a
the
Graham
third.
Green thing. I think Graham Green in one of his books was a whiskey
but have you never written that song?
Yeah, I will. I'll get to it. It's coming.
I think you need to. So, and about yourself. I mean, don't make it about them. It's got to be about yourself. So you moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
And you're backing up your friend Fitz playing drunken Irish songs.
Right. Yes.
And then how do you start playing out by yourself? Because you were very shy back then.
Yeah, I was. I was ridiculous, wearing sunglasses, going into open mics and with reading Howl by Ginsberg in the back of the room, It was ridiculous. And,
You're ridiculous, but you meant it, so that makes it less ridiculous.
I did. And it was no,
because you weren't very, I mean, you weren't really trying to work on developing a sense of irony at that age.
No. Yeah, and I think people, when they came up, kind of laughing and then realized, oh, for real? Yeah.
Right, like you mean it?
Seriously?
Right. So you started playing these open mics, and then how did something get written about you, and what was it that was written
Well,
about
I knew the guy was coming to see me, so I made it outlandish show. I jumped on a table that was falling over. I played a harmonica, Bo Diddley thing, and just ripped it. And I knew I had to do
like
something.
A 19-year-old.
Yeah, but I had to do something drastic. And that New York Times thing that came later, I remember the reason I was on the cover of the arts and entertainment section was because I was just so outlandish. Like sometimes you have to do things to really like shake the walls, like whether you believe it or not. Just to, like remember Tony. Oh, I don't know if I should say Tony Robbins. You had a meeting with him and he clapped his hands and he said, "Just had to change the energy in the room." Remember he did that
I think
to you?
Tony's amazing.
Yeah,
that was years and years and years ago. Yeah.
But
one
sometimes
of the things he talks about is how to change the state.
Okay.
So if you're in for sure. I mean, if you're in a situation and it's a heavy business meeting and some guy suddenly goes like, you're going, what the hell is that? You'll start laughing, and now the mood in the room has shifted.
Right. Does he do that to gain an edge, or somehow put people on tilt or something?
Well, he teaches that stuff.
Right.
So he's trying to... No, he's talking about inertia in a way, like when things seem like they're stuck or they're moving in a certain direction and you can't change it and the thing's going down, there are all sorts of ways you can try to address it, salvage it. And so he'll use a whole bunch. I mean, he'll use a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. And I'm sure at times he must gain an edge by doing that because if you have that toolkit, you're probably going to use that toolkit.
Right.
But back to you.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're saying you put on a big show for this purpose.
Yes.
And what did the article sort of say?
Just, it started with me on top of a table, big-haired kid, on a shaky table playing, and that's how the article started. So it was really like I changed that guy's perception. I shook him and then got his attention. He wrote this glowing article, which then ultimately was, passed on to you. But yes, I mean, that was a moment where I had to really grasp it, because it was there. And
yeah, but you were young and a young person. I mean,
I realized the importance of the gravity of it. I realized this guy from the Sun-Times is coming. Like, I could have gotten up
so
there.
When you were writing the songs, you were thinking only about kind of write songs that would connect. And but on stage, you decided to overcome this.
To be dramatic, I realized the importance of, there was this commercial that was on TV not even that long ago where it was Martin Luther King's speech on Washington, and it's this panoramic view, and the camera goes from him and going, "I have a dream," and it goes behind him, and there's nobody there, and there's that fountain that goes, and there's nobody there, and it said, I think it was an internet company or something, and said, "Before you can inspire, you have to connect." And it was about a server or whatever. But it was really like, that's an amazing thing. You have to get people's attention before you can get into their heart, get into their, their
right.
hips.
And so that's what you've, sure. So that's what you thought about at that time.
I realized that.
And I remember I got a demo tape and I heard it, and your voice was very deep and you sounded much older.
Right.
And I mean, I remember that there was this song, Borderline. And what are the first lines of that song?
Lost souls and road tolls and vagrants in the steeples.
Yeah, fill the
empty hours that's filled with lonely people.
And I remember thinking, like, boy, that's really interesting use of words. And I would go to Chicago and see you perform. And so you played a show. Where was it?
Metro.
At the Metro in Chicago, big club. And then the next day, you came over. And what do you remember what happened?
Yeah.
What was it?
Well, so I mean,
and let me stop. What was your life? So you're living in Chicago then. How poor were you at that time?
Broke. Just paying rent, getting by, $250 rent.
What was your average day like? Were you eating
spaghetti? Noodles a lot. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's true. Noodles.
No, what was it? I want to understand where you were.
I don't. Cereal in the morning, noodles at night, nothing in between. Go to the pub and play songs, and just scrape together enough to pay $250 and keep living.
And you lived in kind of a weird
cockroach ridden. I'd hear them in the silverware when I'd be trying to go to bed. They'd be in the bed. Like, oh god,
and just full of like wanting to do this rock and roll.
Yeah,
thing.
Bars on the window, garden apartment. You hearing the neighbors like as if there's just chicken wire separating you.
And you didn't have at that time. It was all like all in front of you. You didn't say to yourself, I want to do something. This is crazy. I want to do something.
No.
You just thought I
it was
gotta
just one way to go.
Roll.
This is.
And so what happened? I came to see you, and then
you came to see me, and then you came down, and I won't put words in your mouth, but you thought it was okay. You thought maybe you could sign me to a publishing deal. I wasn't ready, and you said, "Come on over." Well, my manager told me you're going to go over to his hotel room. Play him songs tomorrow. He doesn't think you're ready for a record deal, and I was like, man, like. There was that moment that, that I've become all too familiar with, that moment that doesn't go, follow through, doesn't come to fruition. So I went to your, which maybe was nice, because I went over with a different attitude the next day and thought, I'll just play him some songs. Maybe I'll get a publishing deal out of this. And so I just played you songs for several hours. And, you were a great poker player. I didn't really know what you were thinking, but you kind of kept asking me, play another one. And then I'd only get through like a verse and a chorus and want to go, I can't remember. I'll play me another one. So I was like, wow, okay. So I just kept playing, and I had my producer manager there, which was very distracting. It was like having a bee in the car. It's just like trying to get it out.
Well, yeah, he would sometimes clap along.
Yeah, and just doing rhythmical things.
Yeah, strange things, trying to like add like a little honey to the pie. Yeah, he was just trying to sweeten it. Yeah, he was just shuka chaka, shuka chaka, shuka chaka while he was singing, while you were singing. Right. So Joe, who's the records these, is a musician, and he just looked in here like, what do you mean? Yeah, he would go, Mike would be playing a folk song, and suddenly he would be like, shikadaka. So, but here's the thing: we're laughing, but I decided to sign you to a record deal. But I've long wondered, and then you started on this course, and we'll talk about it. But you got quickly successful, and it was a long time ago. Your album came out in 1991. Yeah. We made it together. You got on MTV in decent rotation on there. You sold a lot of records for that time. Not a ton of records, but enough for a big first album. And then you were so young and so kind of cloistered, sheltered in the life you
Yes,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, to me, that's the moment that your life really turned, was the moment that, you know, we decided to make this record together. And you've had some tough times, and I've often wondered, like, you know, would it have been better to let you stay there in Chicago,
Right, and just
and live
sell
your life,
insurance
and then figure it out, and then, you know, maybe 3 years later, you would have been in a different place when you're talented enough, would have happened.
Oh,
have you ever looked back on that?
No, I mean, I really wouldn't trade any of it for as dark and as hopeless as it got. I mean, I understand why you would ask that, and I will probably think about that, you know. But no, man, it's been great. It's been a really rich. I feel like I'm checking out. It's been a great life, folks. You know, but yeah, man, it's been great. I mean, it's been wildly fascinating. The whole. All the bad, you know, like, and again, like, I'm a masochist of sorts, so I think I'm driven now, in which I think failure can be like cyclical, like you get used to it, and I've destroyed relationships just because I thought they would destroy it, so I might as well preemptively strike this, which is a bad, you know, it's a poisonous. I had like a soul sickness. I got sick, and
Do you think part of that happened because you got to go out on the road at 20 years old?
yeah, I mean. Yes. Oh, if
I was saying, so you made this album with me, and Don Gaiman and I produced the album together. Don Gaiman produced all John Cougar's records and Hootie's records. He was a huge record producer, and we did this together, made this album. And like, from living in that cockroach-filled apartment, I don't know, within a year, you were up at MTV's offices playing music for the whole staff. And who were you touring with? Who did you go out on the road with?
Well, I mean, you know, the Bodines or Jeff Healy and
And then just in a van.
Van Moore. I mean, yeah, I've played with a lot of great people.
But then I'm saying you were in a van going across the country.
Sorry. I thought you said Van Morrison.
Well, yeah, but you were then going in a van across the country.
Yeah.
And what what did that all feel like to you? Did you feel overmatched? Like, when we had to go make the album, did you feel overwhelmed? Did you feel...
Well, I was, remember? I mean, I'd had several breakdowns during that record, you know, like, I mean, emotional purgings, you know. But, I mean, I think that was normal for a kid. I was so excited, and so I was overwhelmed, clearly. But the abuse came, I think, it was kind of in concert with the fear, or the when things didn't go so well, then, you know, then it was like, and when there's whiskey in your dressing room every night, I mean, how do you not? I mean, it's just sitting there, you know, like, might as well drink it. And then, so every night, it's just in your face and blow and all that stuff. You know, it was hard. It just became too easy, you know.
Too easy
to say no to, you know. I mean, it was too easy. It was too accessible for me, you know. I mean, that's no excuse. I would have sought it, and then I ended up.
No, I mean, this is what I'm wondering about. You know, whether you were equipped emotionally.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know.
To go, you know, to go and to go and do that.
To do that with moderation.
And I said at the beginning of this, before we walked in, this was going to be weird to say, because, you know, like, having switched from being somebody who was a talent scout, what I did, and finding artists, to then being someone who's on the other side of it. I'm just aware of what all that stuff is, and how you personally try to negotiate or protect parts of yourself when you become merchandise.
I never knew that. You know, I guess you saw that, yeah. Yeah.
Well, like, I saw it because I didn't become somebody who was on the other side, but making things till I was 30.
But even when you were young and successful, you weren't drinking, or you know, like, we'd get drunk once.
I don't know.
You know,
I was raised in a different. No, I was.
You would pour shots. You would, you know, when no one was looking, Brian would dump them. You know, like, so. But you had a control about that. I just never did. I don't.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely true. But let's talk about it. Let's go to the narrative of it, because although it's true that stuff was available to you, I think the thing that we're missing, or somehow I'm talking about, is that when you're so young as we were, the emotions are just enormous.
Yeah.
And so what did that all feel like when you started to go get to make your first album at 20 years old?
It's hard to even put into words. It was so joyous. I mean, it was just amazing, like, you know, with a capital A-M, you know.
And do you think now, the way that I'm wondering, as you look at the music thing now, like if you were coming up now, there would never have been that moment because you would have just made it yourself,
Yeah,
right?
I would have done it in my room, but going on the road is just it's a tricky terrain. It's like hard to navigate around some of those things, and because there's so much downtime, and I'm making excuses for. I think I'm going off in the wrong direction, but.
Yeah, go. Tony Robbins.
So, I don't. I wasn't able. I didn't have the smarts or the street smarts to navigate around that. To know moderation was just not a word I understood.
But as an artist, as a songwriter, right? You get to go make this album, and then as it was about to come out, people started writing some nice things.
It's amazing.
What did all that take me through? What was happening then as you were starting to?
Part of me, as a young man, I thought, see, I knew it. Like it confirmed what I had secretly thought in the dark of the night, that I'm great.
Oh, you were a genius.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Really, that's how it felt. Like, yep, I was right. I mean, it was kind of incredulously. Well, I guess I was. Yeah, I think it confirmed what I thought.
Yeah. See, and I'm afraid that I stoked that. Like, you would get a review with, Chris Whitley, and I forget who the third guy was, and it was really positive about you, but it was like Chris Whitley is a full-blown artist.
Right.
And like, if I went back and read that review now, like they said, great. I know who wrote that article, Tom. He's great things about you. But like, Chris was the 35-year-old man who'd made one of the best. If you look at that album now, and by the way, if people don't know that album, Chris Whitley's Living with the Law. I mean,
it was awesome. Yeah.
That is a staggering piece of work. And I remember I was like, they screwed you, McDermott. And like,
yeah, we were pissed, Yeah. And then he got the Tom Petty tour. We didn't. Like, mother. So yeah.
So that album comes out. You make it. And what happened in your life? Tell it to me like I don't know it.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the record, back then, they made records for a lot of money. So we spent probably $250,000 making that record. 80,000, I think it was, for the Wall I Must Climb video. It came out, MTV, put it in rotation. Had some decent tours, sold a decent amount of records, but everything stopped fairly quickly. It I wouldn't say it died on the vine, but it wasn't kind of what we thought it would be. Yeah,
it was the record company I was working for then was an odd kind of new record company and didn't really know what they were doing.
Right. But I can never say like, oh, the label screwed me, because they didn't. They put a lot of money in the promotion. They did everything kind of what they could, but the stars didn't align.
But that's with perspective now. But what did it feel like?
Oh,
then?
I was stuck and steaming, Yeah. And then you left the label, and you were kind of in limbo. I don't think you immediately went to work into New York.
No.
Yeah. And so I was kind of, and then I made another record. But anyway, and then I lost my management. The label didn't want me. I was suddenly an orphan again. And you were, I don't know, I can't remember, what were you? I mean, you were doing something. You were
I think I was in law school at night, and I was doing some other thing, and then I went to work at EMI, and then you were able to make records together again. And you made your second album with Don Dixon, who'd produced the R.E.M. albums. But in between that time, what I want to talk about is, because part of it is back then, I would say, like if someone had asked you who your 2 or 3 best friends were, like who were they back then?
Oh, you, Dave, and...
Right, yeah. I mean, there was the 3 of us pretty much were inseparable.
Yeah, yeah.
And, Dave and I have obviously gone on and still do this thing together, and you're in Chicago. We all still love each other and are in touch. But during that one period when you were out on the road between the first and second album and pissed and upset, what was going through your head? And as you were trying to rebuild yourself, and also as you were... like with women and all that stuff. What happened as a young person doing rock and roll? This is all a way I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I think I thought it was a rite of passage in some ways, sexual depravity, drugs, and drink. I mean, that's kind of what you sign up for. I mean, at least I thought that was kind of part of the package.
Was it fun?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was fun for a long time. And, I mean, there's so many cliches about cocaine, but if it wasn't fun, no one would do it,
Right.
So
that's when you became sort of like a liar to other people and yourself.
Yes. And then I kind of...
because the other thing, I guess part of what I wanted to say is you were like the most, when I first met you.
The most moral, yeah.
You were like the most moral person I'd ever met.
I really was.
And then you made a deal with the record company Devil. And within 6 months, you were like the biggest liar on the planet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
what do you think? I mean, what is that?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
When I say liar, I mean you would lie to everybody in your life.
Everybody. Yeah.
And
I think it was from shame. I think I have never really, people say, "Oh, I'm proud of you." I haven't really made anybody proud. I think I mean
that's
so,
what you feel.
Yes, and I've let so many people down. I mean, it's a list. I can't think of the list of people I've let down and the people I've made proud. It's a lonely neighborhood over here, and it is a crowded ghetto over on the the people I've disappointed. That's
how you still feel?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, that's not true. We can talk about that. I mean, you're a great dad. You have an awesome wife. You just got back from playing Italy and Germany, where you made just tons of people happy. I heard that Havey thing saying about somebody said to him like, "Oh, it's too bad you're just becoming successful, or we never made it, or something." Like, yeah, you have to recalibrate your ideas of success as you go along in this journey, right? I mean, have you? Are you? Well, I don't want to. You can ask me.
But I mean, your life is amazing. What you've gone through. You've been through so many things. Is this where you thought you'd end up, or? Well,
this is kind of beyond it. In many ways.
Yeah.
For me,
right?
I mean, getting to make. Yes, I mean, getting to first of all, having married the girl of my dreams and have these kids that I love and I'm so proud of, and then.
But you have your journey.
Yes, I'm very creatively fulfilled, which is the thing. I'm curious and I follow so for me, like, I get to make movies.
Right.
I get to do this thing where I talk to people I'm really interested in, right? I've never put anyone on this show that I don't want to really hear about. But your life took a turn. You didn't see it. You didn't know you were going to be a creative person necessarily. You knew you liked the smell of it, and you were in it on the industry side. But then to take that leap, I had no idea that it would happen. Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like so your calibrations changed. Like, wow, this is where my life is going, and how great and wondrous that is. And like mine is this. I'm happy. I mean, I am. There's levels of. Yes, now. But so I just want to go back because you had when you were young a North Star, which was you were going to be true. You were going to live by this, the way you understood this religion to tell you to live. Yes. You were going to write these songs that were only there to make you happy because you were a perfectionist about what you wanted to do lyrically. Yeah. And then you go out on the road and you become a debauched person who wants like kind of a certain kind of validation more than anything. Yes. So, I mean, what happened to you then in like the writing and thinking about it? How did you react to criticism? Because you got a lot of positive response, but then some people would say, "Oh, he sounds too much like Dylan," or "He sounds too much like Springsteen." I mean, how did that? Yeah, I mean, that didn't. I mean, it bothered me, but it didn't bother me that much. I think because I tried to numb all my senses, and so I was really good at it. Right, so it bothered you so much that you had to numb all your senses. Yeah, right. It did. Because I never felt validated. I never felt like I got, enough credit, I guess, And you felt that way when you went in to make your second album. And so on and so on and so on, yeah. And what do you think you were writing about back then? Well, and folks, I got to say, Brian was always my mentor in terms of writing, and because a lot of it, my mind was so awash with like, I don't know, anytime I started using words like angel and, castle, and like Brian would be quick to, say, come on, that's too easy. You would push me to write. Yeah, but what do you were that? I mean, that was like my job at the time, and I cared about your music so much. But what were you interested in talking about then and writing about, do you think? Well, it was, I think loneliness was obviously one of the main themes, and surrender obviously was another theme. It's like you use surrender on many songs. Yeah, what does that mean to you, this idea need to surrender? Yeah, just taking your hands off the wheel and like really trusting in like a force that is yours, that can guide you, and whether that be God or your own spirit and your own energy or source or whatever you want to call it. I think that's the thing that I still like. I want to control everything. I'm not a control freak, but I feel I could. I'm always fighting the wheel as opposed to just letting it kind of guide me. And do you think that your sort of own insecurities at the time made you somehow only comfortable in defeat so that you would find a way to sabotage?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know why that always felt like a very comfortable place for me. It was always my neighborhood, you know. I don't know why. I don't know where that comes from, or my feeling of like abandonment, like almost reveling in abandonment, and feeling very disconnected, and I don't know. It's still.
Your music has so much empathy. Why do you think you're able to have empathy out and not empathy in?
Yeah, I don't know. Great question. I don't know. You know, and now I'm in a place where I have no religion, and but I feel more empathy just about the downtrodden and the displaced people, because I'm really, I mean, I know it well. I know those feelings so well that it really was about me too. But I just put it in other characters because you can't pity yourself.
No, I mean in the music, I think there's so much humanity, but I'm more asking about if you think, because another theme that runs through all your stuff is forgiveness.
Yeah.
And, I mean, do you think that you displayed that forgiveness towards yourself?
No, yeah, I know. I got a lot to make up for. It's going to take the rest of my...
But what?
I don't know.
What does that mean? Really? What's so bad about you?
I don't know. It's there's no great events. Like, it's just a seething... desperation, like that. I don't know. It's self-loathing. I don't know what it is and why I feel that way, but it's there's no event I could point to like, well, it was the day this happened. It's just more of a, I've always, I don't know, sounds silly.
No, but I feel like you recognize the possibility of your best self.
Yeah,
because that's in your music, like a search for it.
Yeah, I think I'm getting there. I don't know. It's a tough question.
Yeah, but you think you've gotten better at it?
Yes, I think I have. I'm letting myself off the hook a little more than I, But I still, like I want to, providing for a woman and a child is, that's become more in the forefront of like, that's goal one. And, and the rest of it is a luxury.
Well, and Heather, your wife's your partner. She's out there on the road playing with you, and an artist in her own right, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mean you have your daughter Willie in mind all the time.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's
is that what fuels you now when you go out?
Yeah, I mean, and still being the best writer I can be, like that's and playing music I love, like before I would be so eager for the show to be over so I can get f***ed up, and I'd already be f***ed up on stage, but it'd be kind of wearing off by then, so I'd cut shows short, get off stage, knew there was blow waiting, the whole thing, and then but now like I just love being on stage, and I'm last night was a 30-minute set. I hate those. It's just like I'm just getting warmed up. So when I do my own shows, I love being up there now. It's just a very different thing. It's nice.
Well, and an amazing thing has happened. I mean, so you rode kind of like the record company carousel for a while, right?
Rode it right into the ground, yeah.
And you made 3 major label albums. The first one was called 620 West Surf, and that was the apartment that was controversial. And I have to say, I think that's a stunning classic album.
You've been there. Yeah,
I've been to 620 West Surf. And then you made an album called Gethsemane, and that has the songs that Stephen King really fell in love with you on. And not just Stephen King, I mean lots of people in lots of pockets. You haven't had that many fans, but your fans are crazy.
They are.
You say that connection, what do you think? What's that about? What does that feel like?
I don't know. And because it's all, and I don't know how much I should say about this, because I know all the fanatics will be listening to this. I love you all. But yeah, it's interesting group of people, and I wonder what it is that attracts them so fervently to me, because I can't figure it out, really.
Because they've been following you for 20 years, right?
They're just invested, you think? I don't know.
No, I think that it means it hits, like when you're writing those songs, who are you picturing listening to?
Yeah, I don't, I don't ever think of that, because that would screw it up too much. But yeah, it's an interest.
Because they believe in you, it seems to me, in a very fanatical way.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, if not for them, I wouldn't have a place to live. But I don't have any clue what it is that attracts them to what I write about, because the people and what they do in their lives has nothing to do with the people I write about and sing about. It's almost like a weird, these are people that love the car accident and slow all traffic down for miles. Like, what do you like about this? I have no idea.
You ever ask them that?
No. I'd be afraid of the answer.
Because even last night there was this. We were opening for 10,000 Maniacs. There were like 100 people there who were there for clearly there for you and cheering for you. And I could tell and they were all trying to come up to you. I mean, we had a very uncomfortable moment. How do you process that? The disconnect.
Yeah.
Between being basically anonymous.
Yep.
And then having this group of people who think you're like. Almost like a holy person or something. What's that feel like?
It's very awkward. I hate it. Because I just feel very awkward. I mean, you were there last night. You saw that. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I can't believe I'm touching you. Stupid stuff like that.
But do you have any sense of what it is they're responding to?
No.
In you? You really don't.
I really don't. Like, is it a darkness in them?
When they write about, you don't think it's the hope that you represent?
I hope so. No pun. But yeah, I hope so. Because you're probably right. I hope.
Well, so you made these 3 albums.
Yeah.
And then I left the record business.
Yeah.
And
I called you one day and the phone was disconnected, and I went, and then this is before cell phones, I think. And then I called you at home. I'm like, dude, what's going on? EMI had closed, like it was just done.
Well, I think I had left. Dave and I had sold Rounders, right?
By then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. We had sold Rounders, and so I was probably like
just done with it,
beginning to be done with it, or maybe the office has moved, or whatever the thing.
Okay, so I must have called. I don't remember having anybody else. Yeah.
You called and
yeah, the phone was just that funny signal that the doors had closed and EMI, yeah. And then they decided not to pick me up, and then that was...
So that was like what? You were in your late 20s probably.
Yeah, 28 maybe.
You'd already that year been on the cover of the New York Times Arts and Leisure section, which is another big kind of spike where there was a lot of attention for a minute.
Yeah.
And did you at any point along the way, like right then, so 3 records, none of which really broke through. You knew you were great at what you did. Enough people were like, this guy's great at what he does. But I was thinking about this today, and so much of when I talk to people, it's about like how they didn't quit and then they became whatever. But you're still on this path. You're such a smart person. Did you think about, hey, maybe I will quit and I'll become a writer, or I'll teach?
I did. I've thought about it all along, and I'm not deflecting, but somebody talked to me like, you should do a podcast, man. And I kind of did a cursory investigation of it, and it just seemed like too much. You see things, go after them, and you make it work. You've even said to me, you should act. You should take acting lessons or whatever. And I look into it and I kind of go, yeah. It just seems like too much work or whatever. Like, here's one example across from you sitting right now. Here's a man who sees things, goes. I'm not.
Yeah. But again, it's not about me. What I'm interested in is. I think a lot of that, by the way, has to do with, like, I was raised by 2 loving parents. I mean, who just were, like, focused on me.
Right.
Your parents love you a great deal.
Sure.
They were older, and you had a different kind of a childhood.
Fair enough.
I do think so much was because, like, I had parents who said,
you could be anything.
You're smart. You can be anything. And I somehow was I was dumb enough to believe that, which then enabled me to later, like, put it into practice. But I'm more asking, like, because there were certain things, like even I was talking to your wife last night, I mean, you do know that you don't really run across people during the course of your day who are smarter than you most of the time.
Right. Yeah.
And did you ever think, I'm going to go and do something else?
Not really. Because I'm smart enough to know that I'm really good at. I mean, your father said once, and I've hung my hat on this for a lot of years. It's with Michael McDermott. It's never a question of if; it's a question of when.
Well, gosh, I hope he was right.
I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
Don't listen to everything he says.
Yeah, he's been wrong sometimes.
He's been wrong before.
I think he was talking to Michael McDonald. Who was behind you. No, but so after those 3 albums, right? You, what then happened? How did you then? When I was no longer there.
Yeah, it was, I put whatever money I had left, made another record that kind of got picked up by Koch. I mean, I was literally between vocal takes when they were playing the track, I was freebasing, and, I would exhale the crack coke, and then I'd start singing, and that's what it was. I mean, it was...
yeah, so, like, this gets back to what I envisioned was that you were going to continue to be, like, the same dude. And then by your 3rd or 4th record, because of the constant continued work and focus, you would have I couldn't have counted on, like, the drugs and alcohol wrecking the havoc that they did.
Yeah.
I mean, do you look at that as something that impeded your progress a lot?
I don't know. I don't think it was in the cards for me. Sometimes that's when I started believing that it wasn't going to happen. Like this is...
Well, when you're freebasing in between vocal takes, you're sort of manifesting that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I wasn't helping matters, but yeah, it was. I was kind of checking out a bit.
What was that? The lowest moment?
Getting there. Yeah, I mean, it went down.
What's lower than that?
Well, I mean, there's things that I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about. But things that I've had secret lives. I've had things that I would never repeat.
But do you think that? I mean, do you think that stuff was just in the cards for you because of who you were and how you were raised? Do you think it was a result of false expectations for yourself, buying into the hype, the record business? Like, when you look at it, do you think there was another way this all could have gone, or do you feel like this was the inevitable path down which you had to travel?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I brought it all on. I welcomed it. I opened the door and said, "Come on in." I really did. I could go back and blame it on things in my childhood or whatever, but I won't, because I knew I kind of knew what I was doing during a lot of this.
You did?
Yeah.
You mean you knew?
I knew.
Did some part of you not want? I guess that's what I'm interested in. Like, because when I was talking to Alan Havey on the other podcast, it was clear that the joy he got from doing the thing he did, stand up, and he could recognize in a very tangible way, I'm really good at this thing. And I can keep doing this thing, and I'm going to do the work on myself to transcend my limitations, right? Some of the same demons he talked about.
Right. I moved to LA.
He was around your age when he said, he thought, oh, it's over, and then he turned it.
To move to LA.
And I know you've recently gotten yourself, what are you, 150 days of sobriety?
Close, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And married with a kid who you love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you feel like this is a moment of a time where you're turning it? Have your sort of desires changed? Are they the same?
I've thought about doing other things. I have considered that, and maybe now with a clearer head, I could, look into some of these things with more.
But I'm saying with rock and roll.
Pardon me?
I'm saying even with the musical career, do you feel like
I still? I mean, I'm really better than ever. I really do believe that, and that's not some bullshit like sober guy talking. Like, I'm great. Everything's not great, but my writing's just really, really good right now, and I'm going to ride that as long as I can. And
even throughout the haze of everything, like I said, on every album, there's a
it's still
song.
Pretty good. Yeah.
There are songs that are stunningly great, and that that if people heard them, if someone heard "So Am I" from 2 albums ago, they would be like, "Why is this guy not world famous?"
Yeah.
And that's why each step of the way there's been some encouragement, right? Somebody's come out of the woods each step of the way to say, "Hey, you're great. I want to manage you or take you to the thing or sign
yeah, it's just
you."
always enough. The crumbs from the table are just enough to keep me going another day.
But I was thinking about this because that movie Searching for Sugar Man, where that guy didn't know he was big in South Africa. I mean, talk about what happened to you in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, I was in Italy, and I was drunk, and I didn't know where the first show was. I knew what town it was in.
How did you even get that you were going to go play Italy?
I was asked to open for this woman, Eileen Rose. Oh, I'll go to Italy. Great. So,
how many years ago was this?
5.
Okay.
And so I went to the town. I didn't know exactly where the show was, but I found out, got there early, started drinking in the town square, and then I kept going by the theater to check, and it was all gated up. And then at some point later in the day, and I was pretty lit by this point, I went over there and I saw a crowd of people. So I thought, oh, okay, good. It must be opening the doors. And I walked by, and I looked down on the steps, and there were people all congregated there, and there was a guy there, and he was writing on this big white board. And as I was reading it upside down as I passed, and it said, "Your silence," and I was like, "What's this?" And then "I will always admire,"
which is a song from your first album. Your silence I'll always admire. Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, man," I know that. And he looked up, and he's this really good-looking guy, and he just tears pouring down his face, like, "Michael, how's it? Why? How has it taken you this long to come here, or whatever?" And then people started gathering around. It was like a dream, and the show was great. And and
you realized you had this big pocket of fans.
Well,
there.
620 West Surf specifically was an album that was a huge thing over there, and it's in books, and people have the LP, which we never even had over here, and
so every stop along the way, you saw that your music had reached
people
all these people
had
in
albums,
Italy.
Yeah, 620 West Surf. Yeah.
And then it happened in Germany too, right?
Yeah, Germany too. So it's been a real amazing part, second chapter or whatever, 12th chapter, so it's been amazing.
That now you're able to do that. And then all along the way, one thing I should say, because I haven't, because it's something that I know is you became, and it was a weird thing for you, or for outside, you became like a rock star in Chicago. Is that?
Yes.
Even when the first album happened, you could always sell like 1,000 seats.
Yeah, I'd always do well there. Yeah.
And recently it's really come. What's happened there?
It's come back again. I don't know, because I was a rock star. When you use that term, it could mean many things. But because I would drive my BMW to Tower Records and walk in with a bottle of Jack and a cane. I kind of built this kind of like
mythology.
Yeah, totally like McDermott. And I remember I went to pull up to see you and Francis Pennington at a pancake place, and I remember, waving out my sunroof like, "Hey, I'm over here," and then I pulled into a car that was already parked on the sideline.
Nice.
It was like Dudley Moore or some weird Arthur thing, But yeah, so things are going great there. There's been a revival, thank God.
And you've been selling out all these shows at City Winery. What's the capacity of that place?
Just 310.
And you're doing it. You've done it like 6 times in a row.
6 times, yeah.
And are you accepting it all now? Like, it happens, and these people are there, and they know every word to your songs. Like, what's it feel like?
Yeah,
now?
It feels like...
And in Philly, too. Like, there are these pockets.
There are these pockets, yeah. It feels like this. Finally. And that's what it feels like.
Finally.
Finally.
And do you feel like you have a batch of songs now that you want to record sober
I can't
for the
wait.
first time in your life?
I can't wait. And it's been hard, this transition, doing shows, post shows, which is never a great thing. After the show, you go out and sign CDs and stuff. But doing it all sober has been very, it kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit, especially sober. Drunk, coked up, I could do it all day long.
Sober's hard.
Yeah, very hard.
And how is sort of now being somebody who has a family and is committed to it, a daughter who's almost 3?
Yeah, going on 4.
And a wife who's out there with you. Do you find it's hard to reconcile, like, being a musician on the road with having this family? Are you ready for it?
It is. It's hard. We talked about this last night, but I tried to take her with us wherever we go. It's very expensive, because she's 4, so it's a full fare, so $1,000 here for a flight there. And the thing now that I find it's hard to train my brain back to where it should be. It's not having to apologize all the time. I'm just so, always, I always found myself having to send flowers to the people I hung out with the night before. It was always just flowers again. But yeah, it being, not wanting to have to talk after the show or doing it for a few minutes and not having to, just doing things for your own safety to get out of there when you have to, because otherwise, triggers start being, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. I guess the thing that worries me, or that as I was thinking about seeing you and doing this today, is and I said at the beginning, and you said you wouldn't change anything, but you were this innocent. You were like a real innocent young, almost child. Like maybe you had just turned 20, I think. Right. And I was only a couple years older, but I was in New York City and in the music business, and by having that world reach out and touch you. In a way, it was like the rocket ship to this thing that was corrosive and corrupting.
Yeah.
To you.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
Sorry.
No.
You're right. I would change a lot of things. I mean, that's crazy for me to say that. When you repeated it back to me, I went, what? Oh, he said that. Yeah. See, I'm still trying to... My brain, what's that Hawthorne quote? A man can only show the face he shows to himself, and then the multitude before getting confused to which one's really him. I am in the that's my crisis now. It's like, who am I? Really is the question. I have no idea. I'm navigating through going, wait, that's not me. I don't have to lie. Why would I just lie about that? Why?
Right. Yeah, you don't have to lie anymore.
It's just behavior. It's behavioral.
And so you've gotten all the way here. But I guess, so to me, I just feel like there's and it's one of the reasons I left that business, there's an implied promise when someone signs someone to a record deal, which is I'm going to take care of you and protect you.
Right.
And I wasn't able to really do that. So
you did though, Brian. Yeah.
No, it's been, it's haunted me at times.
Yeah.
Obviously Dave and I named the character in Rounders after you, and we've stayed like family the whole time. But I am, I guess, and I think I will remain. I'm so convinced of how important you are as an artistic force, And the fact that I wasn't able to help really deliver that, even as much as you just yourself up, sabotage yourself.
Yeah.
It's still, I still wish it were different. And I wouldn't, you've
you wish
enriched
what was
my
different?
life. You've enriched my life so much that I don't wish that didn't happen. But in a way, I do wonder if I had just kept going through Chicago and you'd been playing for 2 more years, and maybe it would have all somehow,
It'd been a very different life.
Yeah, maybe it would have been a different sort of. I would have been more empty for not having known you, but perhaps you would have found a different course. I mean, that's the idea of the moment.
I think I would have found a way to make something have an exaggerated life. I don't know, like, I'd have been a thief or something. Like I would have, or it would have been a DUI and I killed a fan.
I saved you from a life of crime.
I think so.
Oh, I feel all better now. Really? That's great.
It feels like it.
Oh, I'm so glad we did this. I feel all better. I will say that it's funny, this is being with you is so always loaded with emotion for me. But largely I wanted to do this because I really do want people to hear your music.
Thank you.
And your website is Michael McDermott.
Michael-McDermott.
Michael-McDermott.
Dermott.com, yeah.
And then, stupidly, in self-defeating style, your Twitter handle is not spelled the way your name is spelled.
See, I don't understand Twitter that much. Just like
so on Twitter, you're just Michael McDermott
with one T. Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense, guys. Tweet at me if you can't find McDermott. I'm Brian Koppelman at Twitter, spelled just like my name is spelled. Because, like he said, I go after things. Like I want a Twitter handle, I'm going to get my Twitter handle. But you know what I'd love to do? I know that when we were sitting in that hotel room, the song that made me say, I have to try to help this guy get to the world was the song called Number 49.
Okay.
And
I love
can you just tell us what inspired this song, and then we'll reset this thing. So that you
okay.
can
Well,
play it.
before I met Brian, I wanted to go to New York City to see Bleecker Street and see where Dylan cut his teeth, and my mom knew some priests out in the village, which is funny now because you would never send a boy to go stay with priests anywhere now.
Yeah, but this is where the whole myth of you become. I remember you telling me the story, and it was like, I was thinking about becoming a priest, and that's why.
No, I thought about being an astronaut too, yeah. So anyway, and I took the train out and spent a few days here and I think I did on McDougal Street. I can't remember the name of the place. Jeez, can't remember. Anyway, did an open mic or whatever, and got shat on by a pigeon on the Staten Island ferry. And then I came back, and the train out there was number 48, and then the train back was number 49.
And you wrote this on the train back, and because the trip to New York was actually, you kind of just captured it. It was a hard, sad trip.
What do you mean?
Was your trip a good trip or a bad trip?
Oh, it was okay. It was. I just kind of wanted to go see what I was up against, and New York always kind of like, even when I got in yesterday, it just fills me with the sense of like, I don't know if it's false bravado, but it feels, whenever I'm here, I feel so empowered. And so coming out here, going to an open mic, I thought I was better than everybody, and I went back home and thought, I got this.
Well, yeah. I mean, you do. You got it. Now you do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Even then, I thought I could do this.
Gosh, I realized we left out so many stories, like flying to Chicago and breaking into your room.
Oh my God, yeah.
To get you out of bed.
Yeah.
And make sure you were alive. That was really a crazy
And then
thing.
Brian and David saved me. They flew in like the cavalry, and
it doesn't matter. But I'm just remembering, like, geez, you really did almost. You came
I want to
really
do a
close.
podcast to you, and I'll ask the questions next time.
Hey, McDermott, thanks.
Thank you.
Stay and listen to this song. Because Michael McDermott is one of the giants walking around. It's just that certain people can't look up that high.
Lifelessness cries from the fountain of youth. Lawyers debate the meaning of truth. In the judge's chambers he downs his gin and vermouth, and he cries when he sees his reflection. The lost postman wanders American streets past Henry VIII, who quietly eats, being entertained by a drunk quoting Keats. He pays $1 a week for protection. Oh, mama, mama, where have you gone? You left your little boy here all alone. music plays in the small cafes that converse with Marlon Brando in his younger days. The backroom manager's quoting off Broadway plays, 'cause the feelings that he feels are not real. And politicians shake my hand under the L. They don't have to show me, I can easily tell that it isn't their smiles they're trying to sell the bad hand of another deal. Oh mama, mama, where have you gone? You left your little boy here all alone. And by the pool sits a broken athlete, and he drowns his pain from his head to his feet. Since he's retired, he can't swallow defeat, 'cause his life is no longer a game. The old man sits alone with his toast and his tea, watching Jackie Gleason on his old TV, working for the transit authority. And just like Jackie, he feels the same. Oh mama, mama, where have you gone? You left your little boy here all alone. Well, it gets mighty cold after dark. I was walking along through Battery Park. Down to the south I saw a spark coming from the lady's candle. She stood with grace and liberty, all by herself out in the sea. Then leaning down, she whispered to me, this is probably more than you can handle. Oh mama, mama, where have you gone? You left your little boy here all alone. All alone. But take me back home. So lonely. So lonely. So lonely. Come back, mama. If you knew my mama.
Thank you for listening to Grantland. To hear more Grantland shows in your earballs, subscribe to Grantland Sports and Grantland Pop Culture on iTunes. Or go to grantland.com and click on podcasts.